Hello everyone, this is CodePunk with yet another exciting tutorial for Windows 10. So this is the first part of a series I'm going to start that's going to talk all about the taskbar. So if you don't know what the taskbar is, if you look at the bottom, if you follow my mouse cursor, look at the bottom of your desktop, you see that bar at the bottom containing a lot of different elements. That's the taskbar. Today what I'm going to focus on are all these icons. Well, you probably don't have as many as I do, and I'll show you how to get as many as I do if you want. But we're going to focus on these buttons and what they're for. Normally, you're probably used to, clicking one to switch to another app, but there's actually a lot more you can do with those buttons. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about what it is to be a running versus non-running application and how you can tell the difference. So if you look at my current buttons right now, you can see some of them have a white bar, some of them don't. So the ones with the white bar are the current apps that are running right now. So if I were to click one of those, you would see that it would bring that app up to the desktop so that you can see it. If it doesn't have a white bar and you click on it, it's actually going to launch that application. So for instance, here's Explorer, Windows Explorer to go through your files and folders, which by the way, we'll have a separate tutorial for. If I were to click on that, it's on a different monitor, so I'll bring it over here so you can see it. If you look, now it actually has a white button. Let me minimize that, and then you can see that white bar at the bottom, not white button, the white bar at the bottom. So if I go and I click it and I close it, that white bar is gone. So now the app is non-running. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to switch to an app. You've probably used to doing something like that. So if I were to click that, and let's say we minimize it and we don't want to use it anymore, simply clicking it again will bring it back up. And if there was another app already in running, then it would basically bring it to the foreground so you can easily use it. So what happens if you have one app that's being run multiple times? So you might have, let's say, Notepad, and you have 5 different instances, or WordPad, or some other app. So I have WordPad currently running. You can see it, it's the second from the right. But I have 5 instances running. And the best way to see all of those instances is to simply hover over, and you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That means there's 5 different applications running. Actually, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I added the numbers just so you could see. And if you want to go to a specific one, just move your mouse over it and click it. And now you see WordPad open with the number 5 on it. And then if you want to go and we'll do number 2, that brings that app to the foreground, and number 5 is now in the background. If you wanted to go back to number 5, simply click it, and now it brings it to the front. Of course, it's easy. You can just do that too. But if it was maximized and you can't get access to 2, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll minimize it and then get back to 2. Well, that takes a lot of time. So let's bring 5 back up. You can hover over the icon, get to number 2, click it, and now it's up back into the foreground. So that's a really good way to switch apps without having to do a lot of extra steps. What we want to do, what if we wanted to launch another instance of WordPad? Because you see, if I just click on it, it's not going to open up another instance. In fact, it's not going to really do anything except bring the preview window up. So what you want to do, if you want to say, okay, I want another instance of WordPad because I want to create a letter to someone, simply right click it just like that to bring up this little context menu and find the application name and go ahead and click on it. So now you can see a new instance. We'll put the number 6 on it. Let's make it a little bigger so you can see it. Okay, there's number 6. I can minimize it. In fact, I'll just minimize everything. Hover over, and there you can see number 6 right there. In fact, you can even see that it's highlighted. So it's an exact representation of what the actual document currently has. And there you go. So the next thing we will talk about is how to reorder some of these icons. Oh, one thing I forgot. If you have all of these instances open, you're like, you know what? I'm done with that one. I don't need it. Instead of having to go and click on it and then click on the close button, what you can do instead is look for the one you want to close. We're going to close number 1, and you see this little X up here? Simply click that. That didn't work. Oh, it's asking me if I want to save it. Sorry. Let me click one. Hopefully that doesn't ask me to save. No, they're all going to ask me. But normally if you've already saved your document and you click that X, it's going to close. Now, you didn't see me. The actual dialog that says, would you like to save this document? It was on another monitor. So I actually have 3 monitors. So some of them pop up in different monitors. So you only see the main one. So let's go ahead and talk about reordering these icons. That's something I do because I tend to keep the ones I use the most over to the left. That's why you see Chrome, Outlook. I got programming ones that I use all the time, every day. So I always keep that always to the left, and it doesn't really matter where you put them. It's just whatever your preference is. So let's say we wanted to move this OneNote icon all the way to the right. It's pretty simple. What do you think you do? Click it and just drag it. And what you can see is all the other icons move out of the way, drop it, and you're good to go. So that's a really good way to reorder the icons. And you can do that with running apps too. So if I wanted to move WordPad over here, you can see now it's over here and our previews are still the same. So you might be wondering how I got those icons that weren't running to stay on to the taskbar. So you see the ones that are running, and that makes sense because in the past you click on an app to launch it and it's going to stay on the taskbar. But what if you always want to keep that icon there so that it's easier to then go back later and just click it and launch it without having to go find it in the start menu or some other way? So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll launch a different application that's not on there. So we'll launch Paint 3D. So there you see it right here, and you can see its preview right here. Now what I want to do is I want to keep it on the taskbar even if I have it closed. So again, right click with your mouse, and then what you see is a pin to taskbar. So you can pin it, and then later we can unpin it if we want. So clicking pin, now if I go and I close it, you can see that it actually still stays there. It's not running anymore because there's no white bar. But later, if I want to come back and say, hey, you know what, I need to use Paint 3D again, it's right there. I can click it, launch it, and you're good to go. So there's other ways to close applications. Let me see. If we wanted to close all of them, that's the wrong one. Oh, I already closed WordPad. Oh, it's right here. Sorry. Got a little confused because I moved it earlier. So I have all 4 of these open. Now it's going to ask me on a different monitor if I want to save them, just so you know. But if I want to close all 4 of these all at once, instead of going and clicking each little X, what I can do instead is right click it and say close all windows. And that's going to, again, ask me if I want to start saving. There we go. Now it's completely closed. It was not a pinned app, so it's actually gone now. So that's really all there is to the taskbar. Well, at least this portion of the taskbar. Later, we're going to start covering things such as the start menu, which is a pretty big tutorial in itself. We're actually going to look at Cortana, which is just a really cool feature that Microsoft added. And if you don't know what Cortana is, just briefly, if you've ever used an iPhone, you've seen Siri, that's the same thing. If you've used Android, then you've seen the Google Assistant, or if you have a Samsung, they released something called Bixby, which is basically Siri. Well, Cortana is that same thing, but on Windows desktop. And then we'll follow up later with the notification area and the notification panel. So that is pretty much all there is to learn about the buttons on the bottom. I hope that helps your workflow, helps you get a little bit quicker. And that's it. So if you have any requests for tutorials you'd like to see me do, I'm going to go everything from a beginner tutorials like this one and the wallpaper ones that I said, all the way up to advanced tutorials like what it is, what the command line is, and what things you can do with the command line. So that's it. Have a good one. Thanks. So I just realized I forgot probably one of the more important things about the taskbar, and that's the quick launch documents. And what that is basically if you don't have, actually it doesn't matter if the application's running or not. If we look at something like Paint 3D, anything that's document-based, Word, Excel, things like that, you can actually get into your documents a lot quicker instead of opening the application, saying file, opening the file that you want, maybe browsing to it, which takes a lot of time. What you can do instead is go to your app button on the bottom if it's pinned, or if it's running. I guess either one would work. Right click it again, and what you see is this recent label. And I have 2 recents over here. There actually could be a lot more too. So I have, if I right click on Explore, you see my frequent ones, which are the ones I use, the folders that I use a lot, or files. And then I also have pinned ones, and I'll explain pin Explore icons later in a different tutorial. But it's a lot easier to actually click one of those and launch it. Here I am launching an icon for Nightcrawler, which is my favorite superhero. And it brings me right into that app, right into that document without having to go with a file open, something like this, file open. So it makes it a lot easier and a lot quicker. So this time, goodbye. Have a good one.